Cool. The most difficult trick. Wow. I know what that is. Still not bloody made it.
Another minute or so. The audience has joined. Got him. Tai sveiki visi, pradedam interviu su pasaulinio garso iliuzionistu James Moore, kuris yra atvykęs pas mus kartu su fantastišku projektu nustebinusiu visą pasaulį. Tai yra The Illusionist, žmogus, kuris pasirodė Ellen DeGeneres show, kuris Britain's Got Talent, teisėjus ir žiūrovus milijonų žmonių nustebino savo talentu, tai su juo sveikinus turiu priminti. Rašykit savo klausimus komentaruose, geriausio klausimo autoriui mes padovanosime kvietimą į šou. Taip pat primenu, kad interviu bus anglų kalba, kadangi mūsų svečias kalba angliškai, tai tikiuosi, kad visi suprasite, kaip mes juokavom, suprasite, apie ką mes kalbam, bet nesuprasite, pavyzdžiui, jo atliekamų triukų paslapčių. Tai welcome James, good to see you again, and welcome to Lithuania. How do you like it so far?
I'm loving it so far. It's good to see you too. We met each other 9 years ago at Blackpool Magic Convention.
Yes.
I think it was.
Yes, we did. I was so amazed by your manipulation act, and I have to admit that even I was inspired by one of your tricks that I used later in my own act.
Yes, you asked me, I remember.
Yeah, but I had a permission, yeah.
Yeah, we've only been here a day. We arrived, and last night we were out filming. This morning we've been doing interviews, so I've not had a chance to see much around. But a guy just told me that I should be booking tickets to the basketball.
Oh,
apparently
absolutely.
you guys are obsessed with basketball here. So, however, he said I need a long time in advance in order to get them. So when we come back in March, I will go and see a basketball game then.
Definitely, you should do this. It's a very popular. We are even joking that we have two religions in our country. One is the Christianity, another one is the basketball.
Right.
As we have a lot of fans of the basketball.
It's that important to you
Yeah,
guys,
now
right?
up to the magic. You are coming in March here with an amazing show, The Illusionist. We're all looking forward to seeing it. What makes this magic show so special? Why did it amaze all world so well? Why is it so popular?
You know, I think one of the strong points is the fact that there are 7 different cast members, or 8 in this show. Obviously, Susan and Victoria are a duo. And every single one offers a different genre in magic. So, you know, there's comedy magic, there's Hojin doing the world's greatest sleight of hand, there's Grand Illusion. So we're offering, you know, different elements, different emotions, different stories within the magic that appeals to an audience from 6 years old to 106. So even if you don't particularly like one style, chances are 5 minutes later there'll be someone on stage that you're enjoying. So it just reaches people of all different cultures and from all different backgrounds. And that's why I think it's so successful.
Yeah, and your own performance in the cast of The Illusionist, what kind of magic do you will perform in March when you will come? I know you're good at sleight of hand, at close-up and stage illusions, but what is your act about, and the story that you're telling, or the character that you're creating?
Well, they've cast me as the deceptionist, which you know obviously is just a character name within the show. But within this show, I specialise in within illusion. That's what I've been doing over the last few years. However, this year I'm working more on audience interaction. So I've included a piece which breaks that fourth wall. I mean, a lot of guys who've seen my style it tends to be a serious guy on stage, and maybe can get misconstrued, in terms of my personality. But this year, I've got the opportunity to break that fourth wall, go out and meet people in the audience and interact and perform some close-up magic and some sleight of hand. So, something different for me this year in the show.
Cool.
I'm excited.
This is amazing. So the magic will happen not only on the stage, but even in the audience hands.
Yeah, exactly. Not just me personally, but Lewis does a trick which includes every single member of the audience. Each person in the audience gets to perform the trick in their own hands. It's an absolute miracle.
We have some questions that our friends and followers asked. We have even a few of them. But the first one, let's start from the beginning. What inspired you to become a magician? How did your story begin?
Actually, a little bit different. It wasn't the magic initially. I wanted to run away with the circus, and in order to keep me at home, my mum bought me a plate that spun on a stick and some juggling balls. So I was obsessed with juggling, and also I bought a puppet.
A ventriloquist
puppet. Yeah. So that was kind of like the thing that got me started within performance. And my school were holding a talent contest. And in order to fill the time, I included a magic trick which I made out of a shoebox. I didn't have, a lot of money at the time to buy expensive props. So, I looked around the house, found a shoebox, a deck of cards, and I incorporated all these different skills that I'd picked up as a young kid into the act. And afterwards, no one spoke about the puppet, no one spoke about the juggling. They all said, "How did you do the magic trick?" So I think that was the first time as a kid that I realised that adults didn't have all the answers, and also the first time that I started getting credibility for the skills that I'd learned, and it was all directed towards this shoebox trick that I'd created. So that kind of veered me down the magic path rather than talking to puppets.
You always knew that you wanted to be
very different
in show business. It took some time to find the real.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and that it took some time to find my passion. But I was interested in the stage and anything performance-wise as a kid.
But what helped you to become now a world-class magician, to tour the world, to reach your goals, your dreams, and so on? It looks an amazing career you had. Did you had a mentor? Did you had someone that inspired you, that helped you? What was the main motivation?
Of course, I was obsessed with Copperfield growing up, David Blaine on the television, massive love for that guy. And going to magic conventions, watching magicians, Jeff McBride I was obsessed with as a kid growing up. And I joined magic clubs and learned from my peers and people around me. Even now, in this show, I'm still learning. We're working with Luis de Matos, who's a massive name in Portugal, massive name in the magic industry, and has got so much experience that certainly for me coming into this show as a young performer, I think I was 25 when I joined. If I've ever got a question or if I ever need an answer to something, chances are Lewis is going to have it. We've worked in the past with Raymond Crowe as well. These are legends in our industry, and they have so much knowledge and so much experience that we can. I'm so lucky in order to be able to draw from that. So certainly they've been the biggest inspirations for me.
Yeah, it helps. We're looking forward to seeing Luis de Matos will join the Illusionist cast coming here in March. We have some questions from people who are watching. Vilus is asking, what are the most? Is it difficult to amaze today's audience? Because we have cell phones, we have so many things that we are used to, miracles of the modern technology. Is it difficult to amaze modern audience, do you think, than it was for 100 years ago for Thurston?
Absolutely. I
really
absolutely believe that. And the reason is, there are far more scientists moving technology forward at a much faster pace than there are magicians in the world. We're obviously trying to move our art forward and keep up with times, and we're doing that as best as we can, but we just don't have the numbers, to keep up with that factor. So it does become more difficult. There are CGIs in movies now. Like you say, people turn on their mobile phone or stick their key in their car and start, and they don't wonder how it happens. They just expect it to happen. So it does become ever more challenging for us, and it's up to us to try and use the technology and the things around us within modern times to help push that forward. But we're limited also by what we can do with magic. We can obviously produce something, vanish something, levitate something, transposition, whatever. But there are only a few things that we can work within that sphere. So it is becoming more challenging.
But still, then, in that context, it's amazing that thousands, millions of people have already seen the illusionist show, and they're still amazed. And we have a team of wonderful professionals that can do an amazing things.
Yeah. Well, as you know, magic's one of the oldest professions in history. We've always had this curiosity with the unknowing, and I think that's why, as a human race, we love mystery. We want to challenge ourselves. We want to move things forward. We're always learning, and we're always growing.
Yeah, connecting it with the technology and then amazing things. The movie is said to be one of the inventions by a magician as well.
Right.
Yeah. Another question we have from Yeva is asking, what advice would you give to any young person that is pursuing his or her dreams? What is the advice you would give to yourself if you would meet yourself when you were 13 or 14 years old, when you were starting?
Never stop learning. Obviously, when I was a kid, it was a little bit different. We didn't have the internet. YouTube and that. So I think now, in terms of learning, there's much more opportunity now. When I was a kid, we had to join magic clubs and go to conventions and learn from each other, and watch VHS tapes.
Oh yes,
rewind and all that. Get online, get on forums, meet people that are in your industry, and never stop learning. Keep talking, keep developing, keep throwing ideas out there. Of course, you're going to get 100 bad ideas before you get a good one, but eventually you will land a good idea. And as long as you have that attitude to keep growing and keep developing, then the only way is up.
Not to stop learning. That's a good advice. Talking about good and bad ideas, I always wanted to ask you, what is your process? How does the idea of, let's say, you will saw yourself in half with a chain, the idea becomes a real showpiece that we see all on TV or live in your show. What is your process of creating, getting the ideas, developing a magic trick? What does it take you through?
So I have a group of people that are around me, and we literally sit in a room and we throw ideas out there and we try them. Some of this stuff never comes off the shelf. Some of it's sitting in my warehouse. I have one illusion that I was trying to develop for maybe 3 years, and I now call it the world's most expensive coffee table because it never got finished, So I think it's just a trial and error process. So I didn't always use the chains to cut myself in half. I had one routine where fire would travel across the stage and across my body, and it was it was a real headache to put together. And then when I did put it together, eventually I realized it didn't work as well with an audience when I put that on stage. So some things in your head seem to work well, and then when you actually put them into the real world, they might not. But you've just got to be honest with yourself, listen to your audience, take advice, maybe even from people that aren't interested in magic. Sometimes I think a lay audience can approach you with an idea that would be more successful than a magician would approach you with, because they have a different way of thinking.
I think it works for all of us, for any kind of work we do. Sometimes a person outside the industry may have a better points to tell you or to suggest than a professional. I think one of our teachers, Eugene Berger, used to say, a great idea meets an ugly facts of life.
Yeah.
And then it becomes just an expensive coffee table.
Yeah, you go.
Another question Vilus is asking, before the trick reaches the stage, before you reach the stage, do you have any procedure to calm you down? Because I think every performer is nervous before the show. Thousands of eyes are watching you. Do you have a ritual maybe? What do you do to prepare yourself to go on stage and perform?
If it's a new trick in the show, then I will even talk to myself before the curtain opens, and I'll say, okay, what are you going to learn today, James? What is this audience going to teach you today? Because that is the best attitude to go out with if it's a new trick. Because you're going to learn something. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have a long process before that becomes, something that you'd be happy with. of course. But one performance in front of a live audience is worth 1,000 rehearsals. You know, people will teach you so much more than you can learn rehearsing backstage. But in terms of going out to just do a normal day's performance, as performers, we give our energy, right? So it's very important your condition before you go onto a stage. If you're having a bad day, that's going to affect your performance. That's also going to affect the energy that you give to an audience. And you may think that you can cover that with your acting ability, but I think that's something that people can feel subconsciously, and an audience can feel. You know, they're not stupid. They can certainly feel how your mood is when you're performing on a stage. So it's important to keep yourself positive. If you're in a negative environment, remove yourself from that, put some calm music on, something like that. Or that's at least what I try and do. I mean, obviously people have different rituals for themselves, but yeah, to me, my energy is extremely important, and my advice would be to try and lift your energy in order to give that to the room.
Yeah, because the confidence, the audience always can feel the lack of confidence.
Yeah.
If it's just starting. Christina was asking a question talking about the challenges. The audiences are different, right?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that traveling around the world, Christina's question was another one, how do you catch the audience attention if the audience are distracted? Do you have any tricks? Because magic is not music, it requires 100% attention,
right.
100% attention of the audience.
And you're completely right. Audiences around the world are very, very different.
Really?
In China, they've you know, their theatre etiquette is different. They've learned differently. So you can imagine walking out on stage, and it's very common to see all these lights from people's phones.
Yeah.
Where they're looking at their phones. So you're walking out to that. In Mexico, audiences they tend to just want to have a good time. So immediately as you walk out, they're already whooping and cheering. I found that in Moscow, maybe 20 minutes before they kind of warmed up. In Britain, we entertain us, you know, this sort of thing. So it's a lot more difficult to kind of break in. So yeah, depending on where you are in the world, you'll get a very different response from an audience. But what seems to be the same with this show is after a certain amount of time, they then warm. And once they're comfortable in their environment as an audience, then they'll pay attention. And if they're interested, you will eventually grab them. It just may take a bit more time in different areas.
Yeah, I hope Lithuanians will be an amazing audience, respective, attentive as well. We have some questions coming in. Aiste is asking, this winter we have, as you can tell, this winter we have a lot of snow. Maybe you know any trick how to clean it easier?
Well, I'm sure you're very equipped to deal with the snow here. In England, when it snows, we just shut down. Everywhere closes. I can imagine people here skiing to the shops to buy stuff, you know. Yeah, I'm sure you're equipped to deal with it. And it's very beautiful. Nothing wrong with a bit of snow. I'm delighted to be here after 3 months in China. So, yeah, it's very picturesque. I'm enjoying myself. May even build a snowman later.
Yeah, so we don't see any problem in that. Sorry, Aiste, I think that the easiest way is
to get rid of it.
Yeah, just to enjoy it. Austea is asking, what is the most rewarding part of being a magician? We talked about some difficulties and the process of hard work that you put in, but what is the most rewarding thing in being a magician? Traveling around the world, getting the fans?
One part of it, yeah, I do enjoy that. The creative side, of course, any creative person knows when you have an idea in your head, to see that become, real is an amazing thing for us.
Yeah.
And the whole journey getting there, it can be a long process. There'll be a lot of graft, a lot of sweat, a lot of tears. To see that on stage is very rewarding. Meeting people from all over the world, experiencing different cultures is an amazing thing. And also, magic's a great icebreaker. It's a great tool to meet new people. It's great for confidence. I was a very kind of reclusive kid, and magic kind of brought myself out of my skin. It's a great way to make friends, meet people, and get yourself across, express yourself. So yeah, there are a lot of rewarding factors to being a magician.
Express yourself in any language, by the way.
Yeah. It transcends all language barriers. You know that. Yeah. So yeah, we can approach people and create, emotion and that wow factor wherever we are in the world with a deck of cards. I mean, it's an amazing thing.
Yes, it is. We have some more questions, by the way. At the end of our interview, we'll choose the question that you liked most or the question that you found most interesting, and we will give this person tickets to the upcoming show. Right. We have Gytis giving us 6 or 7 questions even. So let's start from the beginning. He's asking, tell us the most awkward moment you had on stage during your performance. I'm sure they ask you a lot of times this. Yeah. If you can't reveal the secrets or it's something really you're shy to tell us about, then don't, but maybe you have some awkward experiences.
It's worth saying because, again, learning experience. Aaron Crow was on before me in this show, and he does an act where he pours candle wax over his eyes, and the wax went over the stage. And I came running out to start my set, and I fell over. I split like cartoon style, legs up in the air, flat on my back. And I expected the audience to laugh, but it was worse. Everyone just went silent. So, yeah, it wasn't the best start to the act, and it was one of my biggest fears, falling over on stage. I'm sure a lot of people have that fear. But I think once you've done it, you kind of, once you've experienced that, you realize that feeling, and everything else is then is a plus, Once they always say, don't you? Once you've hit rock bottom, everything, the only way is up. So that happened. Recently, I tried a new trick with a card that penetrates through glass, and the trick went wrong. It fell on the floor, but I managed to work it into another trick, another production of the card. So that was awkward, but managed to get out of that one. Nothing too disastrous yet. I've had stitches in my leg from a rehearsal, but nothing too just falling over on stage. I think was the worst thing to ever happen.
No horrible stories.
No
like
horrible
some
stories.
of our
touch wood.
Some of our colleagues have.
That's not wood. That's wood. There you go.
All of your assistants are still alive.
Yes.
And enjoying their life.
Yes.
And so on. Gytis is also asking. I think it will be difficult to answer, but let's try. Do you have the most amazing trick that you love most in your show? What is your favorite trick in the whole wide world to perform or to watch?
It tends to be whatever I'm working on in the time. Like I go through periods where I'll be completely besotted and obsessed with one thing, and then after a period of time that will change. It will be a new thing. And that I think is another thing that's great about being a magician is we get to explore different facets and different aspects of performance. So I don't really have a favorite. I love everything that I've worked on, and that's kind of why I choose to work on those routines at the time.
Yeah, amazing. Each of the illusions have your own touch and so on. Yeah, I think it's the same with many singers that they can't choose one song that they are their favorites and so on. Gytis is also asking, is there a magic trick you didn't perform yet, but you are still dreaming of performing? Do you have a dream trick?
I've never done a levitation. I've never done a levitation.
Well, a person floats in the air.
Yeah, I have a real problem with them because, with the exception of Copperfield's flying, a lot of them are very stationary. So, the person will be in one space and they can't move from that space.
Takes the dream.
Right. So the idea in my head of someone floating, they'd be able to, float around anywhere. So, with the exception of Copperfield's flying, I'm still curious to explore a levitation.
Well, good luck. Maybe until the March.
I don't think it's long enough.
Well, next time. Gytis is also asking, what's your inspiration of all time? It may be in the magic community or maybe some personality, historical personality or some intellectual figure that inspires you. Do you have your role model?
Yeah, Michael Jackson was big.
Wow.
As a kid. I was obsessed with Michael Jackson. Just, his passion and obsession with him, what he did is inspiring and encouraging to anyone. Copperfield, for me, is still the best now.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
And from 30 years ago, I still watch his material from the 80s, and I'm still blown away. He's an incredible artist, not just technically as a magician, but as a performer. In terms of his stage presence, his dance, his work with music, his work with lighting, and the theatre of it all. He's a complete master and unmatched. So, yeah, those are the two biggest inspirations. But I also, I like Stanley Kubrick as a director. I like Leonardo DiCaprio as an actor. So a number of people have inspired me.
Yeah. Well, we have some more questions coming in. Aiste is asking, when you watch other magicians, is it more fun to know how the trick is done, or is it more fun if you don't? I think I know the answer, but still. And she's also asking, what do you think? The secret of the trick should be revealed or not?
Absolutely not.
Never.
Never revealed. Because sometimes the secret is simple. And that can be very disappointing. So you lose that sense of mystery. We know very well when someone knows how a trick is done, maybe they don't care so much about the trick.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing for our art. That sense of wonder is one of the, it's not the only element, I understand that, but it's one of the most important elements. That's why we love what we do. We can create that sense within people, which is very rare within the world, to take people back to a childlike emotion. And that's what magic can provide to people, a sense of wonder, a sense that anything is possible, and that stems from the mystery. So we need to keep that alive. It's very important for us to do so.
The enigma of the unknown.
Yes. So we should not reveal the secrets. We need to keep that.
And the first part about watching other magicians, is it nicer when you don't know how it's done? I think you know most of the tricks, being so many years in the business, but still, are there any things that amazes you yourself?
Yeah, I'm even, I work with Ho-Jin very closely. Yu Ho-Jin in the show, and he's always developing new material, and he comes in and shows me stuff and blows my mind. I still enjoy that sense of wonder. It's what got me started. It's what's created the interest when I was a kid, and I still enjoy it now. There is, people may think that there's the idea that we enjoy fooling people, but that really isn't what magic's about. Magic's not, being fooled isn't a good experience for people. Magic isn't about that. It's about the stories we tell. We have tricks, but tricks are very different from magic. Yeah. And I think it's clear to make that point, because we use certain elements. We use the tricks, we use music, we use a story, we use all these facets and all these elements to create magic, which is something different. And it's what we do with those elements that really creates the real magic.
Yeah, to amaze, to give the entertainment, to
yes.
To create the magical atmosphere. There is another question coming from Arvidas. He's asking that he saw some of your tricks that you perform. They look amazingly dangerous. Is the danger only the illusion, or is it safe? And what is your approach about that? And are you always 100% sure that it's absolutely safe and it will work well?
I don't think you can ever be 100% sure. A lot of illusions that I do look more dangerous than they are, as long as they're, rehearsed and thought through before I put them on stage. But of course, within live entertainment, there's always the fact that someone can make a mistake, or someone can, miss their cue or timing, or pull a safety out too early, which I've had happen in the past, which is never a pretty experience. There's certain safety mechanisms in place with some of the illusions that so there's maybe 3 safeties on one prop, and I'll have to be clear or out the way of the danger before the final safety is removed. Otherwise, it can be a disaster. So I've had some near misses. But some of the stuff is genuinely dangerous.
Yeah, that brings in excitement as well as some of the nervousness, I think.
Yeah.
Do you trust your team?
Implicitly, yeah. I have to, of course, and I'll take a lot of time working with them and asking them if they're comfortable. I want everyone to feel comfortable on stage. It's very important not to not to feel like I'm above everyone in that team. Everyone has to be on the same page. Everyone has to work on the same level in order to create the best performance possible for an audience.
We have a question coming from Virginia. That's a good question. Maybe often people consider it. Why there are so many men in this field and not so many famous women magicians in the world of magic? We know very little about women magicians.
Yeah, we do.
So is there any answer about that?
Just very male, predominantly male orientated, isn't it? Maybe like, ballet. There's more girls doing ballet than that. Obviously, it's becoming more popular, and magic is becoming more popular with young women. And of course, we always encourage girls to get involved and do it. We just, we seem to be in a time where this is still growing in popularity with women. So hopefully, in years to come, there'll be a lot more women in our industry. But compared, the ratio seems to be vastly more male for some reason, and I don't know why.
It might be coming from the traditional history when all the religious people were men, all the people that were in charge well men. Maybe we are just not ahead of our time. That's why in our industry there are so many men and so little women. That's a good question. We hope there will be more women in magic. We have another question coming from Lima. It's a good question. Maybe you have also approached situations like that. What is your advice for dealing with difficult people and those who wish or try to embarrass you or spoil or act or heckle and so on?
Well, I know. That's a tough one, right? I've seen some performers deal with it by sending them back to their seat even on a stage.
Really?
Yeah.
If they misbehave.
I kind of disagree with that because the problem is if you offend one audience member, you tend to offend all of them. So it's very, very difficult. It's a very particular subject. Just be very careful when approaching people. I think the more experience you have, the more idea you of picking a safer option. Of course, I've had people run up to me in the theatre before and I want to do the trick with you, and you never know. They're more difficult to control, but you will learn from them, and you will learn how to help the situation if they're shaking a prop or heckling or trying to ruin the trick. There are certain lines you could say that aren't forced. That will maybe help the situation. We need you to hold it like this so everyone can see, rather than don't shake that around, So we can use these techniques. If someone's just drunk and shouting abuse, really there's not much you can do. I mean, obviously you need to develop a strong backbone, like comedians do, I suppose, in learning how to deal with that. And maybe you can have a line to heckle them back. But it's a difficult subject. It's a difficult one.
It requires a lot of practice, and maybe every time it's different.
That's the thing. You can't control people's personalities. It's one of the elements that we can't control.
But I'm sure during the years you already can tell from their body language or their facial expressions who's will be the one to pick.
Yeah, that's what you've got to try and get good at, and that only comes with doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have to suffer in order to learn that one.
We have Raimonda asking a question. Do you use your magic in everyday life, like, giving a taxi person a tip or trying to impress someone and so on? People are always curious about that. Can you use your magic, and do you use it in everyday life? Just approach people and surprise them in somehow, or maybe...
Not so much as I used to, actually. Yeah, I used to just want to bug people, but it's important to try and practice as much as possible. Obviously, I've now got the opportunity to be on stage a lot more. But if you can find yourself in a situation where you can perform and gain experience, then why not? Personally, not so much as I used to, but I used to just do it as much as I could to anyone. But now I tend to take my time away from magic to relax, and to switch off, you know.
You're simple, a layman,
Yeah.
a simple person. Because I'm sure when they see an amazing magician, people do imagine that you maybe approach a bar and say, hey guys, look, I can saw myself in half now,
Right.
buy me some beer and so on.
Yeah. No,
it doesn't work like
it
that.
doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. I tend to use my free time to kind of switch my brain off, relax, and try and enjoy, you know,
Yeah.
normal things in life.
We have another question coming from Gitis. He's asking, if you will wake up, okay, if I will wake you up in the middle of the night, will you be prepared to amaze me?
With the amount of questions that Geeges is answering,
Yeah, he's a fan of magic,
then-
and yours,
then
I'm sure.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. He's been very kind and very interested, so
Yeah.
I think that's the least I could do. Yeah.
Yeah, to amaze him in the middle of the night. Well, hopefully he won't wake you up in the
Yeah.
middle of the night knocking on your door.
Right, and it depends with what, Geetus. Hopefully you're talking about a magic trick.
Yeah. Well, this is not that kind of show. So
Yeah.
let's move forward. We have a few more minutes for questions and to sum up. We asked Austea. Austea is asking, when did you realize you wanted to become a magician? And we had a question coming from another person who asked you. Vilus is asking, if not a magician, have you ever considered any other career, any other call? Maybe you have some other hidden talents, like a chef or a singer.
Actually, no. I kind of knew I always wanted to be a magician. The only other job I ever had was working on a bar when I was 18, back in the UK. And I asked them when I got the job, every Sunday, can I go and show people in the bar magic? That was kind of my only other job that I ever did. But even then, I was still interested in pursuing the magic, you know. Even though I wasn't doing the magic as much as I was pouring drinks for people, I still always knew that that was the route I was going to try and follow. In the future, possibly consulting or working in television, but I think I'll always be interested in magic. I'll always have that tie to magic, so I can't really imagine doing anything else.
Well, I hope for many years we'll be amazed by your magic, and thank you very much for taking time to talk to us and sharing your experiences, inspiring and so on. We have tickets two tickets that we may give to the question. From all the questions, from all our discussion, were there any questions that you liked or maybe you remember now?
You know, can we bend the rules here? Because I think there's only one person that we can give these tickets to. Because he's been so enthusiastic and he's asked so many questions.
Yeah, yes.
And maybe I should give him them in the middle of the night.
To Gitas, to give him two tickets in the middle.
But Gitas, they're going to have to go to you, buddy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gitas. Congratulations. You get the tickets to the upcoming shows. Thank you for everyone who was watching, who was giving us our questions. We have some more, but maybe you can meet with James in March. Come to see his show. I think his work will answer all the questions and enjoy the magic. Thank you very much for coming. All the best, and I will see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Ačiū visiems.